The ATLAS Orions are the favourite anamorphic pick for loads of high-end Hollywood work and music videos. And the so-called affordable cost of these lenses means they're also, within reach for many mid-tier productions as well, either as a rental or perhaps even as a purchase. But with a ton of new affordable anamorphics appearing on the market seemingly on a weekly basis these days, are the ATLAS Orions still something you should be considering for your projects? Or are there better options out there? Let's find out. The ATLAS Orions are a set of 2x Super 35 anamorphic lenses currently available as 18mm, 28mm, 32, 40, 50, 65, 80, 100, all at T2, and then they've also got a 135 and 200, which I believe are T2.2. So I had the chance to test the A set, which consists of the 40, 65 and 100mm, and they come with blue flaring and PL mounts, but I believe you can also get interchangeable EF mounts as well. As these are Super 35 lenses, ATLAS also make a really clever little extender, which basically acts like a speed booster in reverse. So instead of compressing the image onto a smaller area, it extends the Super 35 image from these lenses onto a larger format sensor. So it does come at the cost of some light and some sharpness, but it can be a really useful option for extending the use case of these lenses onto large sensor cameras. But we'll talk a bit more about that later on. I'd also like to say a big shout out to FOMO Rentals in London for kindly loaning me these lenses so that I can make this video. They're a kit rental house based in Shoreditch, East London, and they've got an amazing inventory of equipment for rental. They also run FOMO House, which is an awesome clubhouse and community for filmmakers and cinematographers, also based in Shoreditch, East London. I've teamed up with FOMO to offer an exclusive discount code on rentals with code FOMOPROSSER25, and they're also going to give priority membership consideration to new FOMO House members who sign up using my name as a referral in your application. I first took these out to shoot some footage with YouTuber Sam Holland. This was my first real try use of using these lenses in the field to get a feel of them. We set up a little shoot in his front room with him playing guitar. So these lenses aren't really designed for solo operators in mind. However, some wider focal lengths from the 40mm below can probably be used handheld if you've got the muscle to back it up. I mean, I'm not saying I've got the muscle to back it up, but I was able to shoot on the 40mm on my Komodo, unsupported, for a few hours without much problem. Wide open, they're not the sharpest as you'd probably expect from 2x anamorphics. So I'd recommend bouncing between the T2.8 and T4 zone to get sort of optimal balance between out of focus area and anamorphic characteristics whilst balancing sharpness, and then especially preferencing T4 and above if you want optimal sharpness and sort of reduced chromatic aberration and that sort of stuff. Do push this really nice vintage anamorphic look. It's never distracting, it's never overwhelming. It kind of sits in this really nice sweet spot. A lot nicer than the Pavos. Obviously, you're paying for it in the cost of these lenses and also in the weight. We often talk about the budget anamorphics being too sharp and clinical and boring. Or with the recent Blazar lenses, we might talk about them going a little bit too far in the other direction and being a little bit too crazy and distracting. But I'd say the Orions have it dialed in to perfection. There's beautiful barrel distortion, it never becomes overpowering, there's nice fall off from the center to the edges of the frame, and all of this just kind of really pleasantly gels together to give you a very dramatic and classy look with plenty of depth and focus on the center of the frame and some really nice fall off, and it just gives you a look that isn't achievable with spherical lenses. Shot this scene also on my Lumix S 50mm, and you can see the difference instantly between capturing this on anamorphic glass compared to spherical. You just get a completely different kind of scene and shot than what could be achieved if you were using standard spherical glass. So they just create a much more interesting, pleasing, dare I say, cinematic image. Front diameter of these lenses is 114 millimeters, which was ideal because I've got a bright tangerine misfit atom matte box and that just fit natively. Did find that sort of focusing manually by hand on these lenses wasn't the nicest experience. They've got this long focus throw, but also I did find the focus wheel was maybe a little bit too soft, I don't know, spongy sometimes. I felt like there could be a fraction more friction behind it. Over the summer, I took the 40mm out on my Komodo with Steph when it's central London to get, a bit of sample footage and sort of specifically look at how these lenses flare whilst out shooting in a real world context. They're not just like spamming a torch down the lens. As you can see, the flaring of these lenses is probably going to divide people and it can be quite aggressive. I do think actually that they have a special silver flare edition in some of the focal length. For the most part, if you're renting these, you're going to be getting this blue flare variant. When it came to handling the footage in post, if I was wanting to add saturation or color density to the scene, I did begin to find that these blue flares became problematic. They began to clip the blue channel especially. So my solution for that was often to select the blue color of the flare and then using the hue versus sat curves, just pull down the blue saturation a little bit. One thing you've got to look out for if you are doing this is that it will obviously affect blue tones within your image, so just be careful when you're doing it and you're not pulling too much blue out of your shot. So even when the sun was bouncing off buildings, we were getting the lens to flare. But in terms of the flare and the secondary flaring all working together, it instantly, dare I say it, screamed sort of Hollywood. I loved it. It was classy, it was interesting, and it just added this level of drama that I haven't seen in any of the sort of budget anamorphic lenses, bar maybe the Pavos. Most anamorphic lenses we've looked at on the channel, there is obviously chromatic aberration. This is especially present, like you would expect, when shooting wide open on these lenses. So wide open, these lenses are very funky, they're soft, they're fuzzy, they glow a little bit on some of the focal lengths, bloom a little bit more. But the chromatic aberration you're mostly going to see is this sort of purple fringing. And maybe, I guess there's some sort of purple coating on these lenses, I don't know, but it maybe feels a bit more in line with the quality of the flaring on these lenses. The nature, the character of these lenses is definitely very distinct from the other cheaper anamorphics we've looked at on the channel. They just have a ton of character. These aren't clean lenses, they're not optically perfect. They're designed to mimic the funky, gritty, grungy look of classic anamorphics from times past. The problem I have with many of the new modern anamorphic lenses is that they're either too clean or they're just a bit too wild, a bit too funky, and a bit too grungy, and perhaps are limited in the types of projects that you can use them on. The combination of barrel distortion, the bokeh, the fall off in sharpness from the center, these things all just work together to sort of really place focus on the center of the frame and instantly and very quickly create a sort of sense of depth and fall off from that center. One of the interesting extras available to these lenses is the extender that Atlas makes. So this is a PL to PL adapter that has an optical element in it, basically designed to stretch out the image, extends the Super 35 image from these lenses onto a larger format sensor. I did try this out and it works nicely. I was able to use these lenses on my Lumix S5 2X and also on the Lumix S9, but it does come with a few caveats. You know, you lose around a stop of light, I think, and when you are using it, you also get a big loss in sharpness and overall lens performance. So given that these aren't the sharpest lenses to begin with when shooting wide open, you're probably going to have to contend with stopping down to around T4, if not T5.6, to get acceptable results when using this extender. Okay, so the cost to purchase these obviously isn't cheap, even though the Orions tend to fall within this affordable anamorphic lens category because, you know, they're not 100 grand. The lenses are around 9.5 to 10K a pop. For the vast majority of people, these are going to be a rental item. A free lens set is probably going to set you back around 270 excluding VAT, at £324 including VAT. It'll differ between different rental houses. But how do they weigh up in terms of, you know, the more affordable options? So I recently featured the DZO film Pavos on the channel. They're pretty much half the price of the Orion, so £5,000 instead of £10,000 per lens. So I'd say that the Pavos are probably, you know, the closest competitor in the affordable lens environment, as they're also 2 times Super 35 anamorphics. However, after my time with both sets, I do think the Orions have a very clear optical edge over the Pavos. So if you're only interested in image performance alone and want the most sort of interesting anamorphic image for your money, I think the Orions are going to be the pick for you. However, if you are on more of a budget, if you're worried about the size and the bulk of the Orions, the Pavos probably are going to be the way to go. There are obviously some new 2 times anamorphic players on the market from the Blazar Katos, but from what I've seen, they don't really come close to the Orions. Obviously, you do have to bear in mind that I think these are cost at around £2,000, $2,000 a lens, so they come in at a fraction of the cost of the Orion. So I don't want to knock the Katos. I'm not here to knock them. I don't think they are bad lenses. I think pricing is really important when we've got to factor in and look at and review lenses. And the Katos are just, you know, doing something very interesting at the lower end of the market in a way that we just haven't seen before, and they definitely need credit for that. But yeah, that's it. So I'd love to know what you think of these Orions. We've looked at a lot of anamorphics on the channel now over the last year, so I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on these lenses. You know, how do you think they stack up against some of the more affordable options we've seen recently? Drop me a comment down below and let's get a discussion going. Big thanks to FOMO Rentals for loaning me these lenses. Don't forget that exclusive discount code we've got. More info in the description. But yeah, I really want to try the Blazar Remus and Kato's next, but I'm really struggling to get Blazar to send me some, so definitely hit them up on social media, give them a nudge and ask them to send me some if you want to see them featured on the channel in the future. Anyway, that's all for now. As always, do give this video a like, drop me a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with future videos. I'm Ed, and until next time, I'll see you later.